This is Ravit and Marie again on the Nasty Divorces podcast. We're not lawyers, we're not therapists, we're two divorced parents on a mission to demystify nasty divorces, understand how and why they're becoming an epidemic, discuss problems we see in today's divorces, along with provide solutions that hopefully we can find.
Only the lonely.
And this is why I was laughing as we started. So there's a study here that says that being single will kill you faster than obesity. And when I saw that, I was shocked. I said, what? Really? It's that bad? So we're going to turn this into like a conversation with, what happens post-divorce. You're used to being with someone every single day, every morning, every night, whether you enjoyed every moment of it or not. Mm-hmm. And now suddenly you're waking up alone. You're going to bed alone. You're not really excited to go home, and maybe you weren't excited to go home when you were married, but it's still a very different feeling. So it says that this should be considered a public health risk, like that bad. So they say those with bad social connections have a 50% increased risk of early death compared to those with good social connections. And that has something to do with the fact that we said that women tend to find a support group at whatever phase of their divorce or separation they're at, but men don't necessarily find that. So here they are finding themselves alone. Even though that they don't want to talk about it with other men, they're actually creating this environment of loneliness.
I don't know that being alone necessarily translates into being lonely. And guys' support groups can be the team sports they play.
Yeah.
Going out every week, playing hockey with the guys, hanging, shooting the breeze, and having a beer after, and all of that.
Yeah.
Just talking and getting out there and socializing. And the last thing I want to hear is some guy bringing up his troubles with his ex in the dressing room. It's happened. It's happened, but not on a. Hey, what do you guys think about this? You know what I mean? It'll come up in a very different way.
I agree. I mean, I think that if you're having a good time, the fact that you're having a good time kind of takes you out of that environment of loneliness and sadness, and that too is very good. I don't mean like that we should, all be going out and joining support groups, all day long. But there is a couple of important things. First of all, the most important part of getting divorced, the first move you should make is taking care of your emotions. The grief and the loss, and we can't say this enough, because if you don't take care of yourself and you don't understand why you got divorced or why she asked for it or he asked for it and why he cheated on you, why she cheated on you, and why your marriage ended off so bad, you're going to end up walking into this disastrous, nasty divorce, because it's going to be stemming from ego and emotions rather than your children. The other thing is that loneliness leads to addiction. And there's all sorts of addictions out there. Depends on, who you are. Sometimes it's an addiction that you really never thought that you would get into.
You mean a physical addiction?
Yeah, so you could have an addiction to sex. You could have an addiction to gambling.
Not a bad thing, the first one.
Well, unless you want to catch cooties out there, I don't know. But you have to be careful. There's a difference between having fun and being careful and having an addiction. Okay. There's addiction to gambling. There's addiction to drugs all of a sudden that maybe you never really got into before. And all of a sudden you feel like, you know what? It kind of takes the pain away for a little while.
Yeah.
And usually you're doing that because or you're trying to cover up this negative emotion, right? Gambling it's exciting. It's different. There's like a win, factor to it. Hopefully not a loss factor. That's what you're aiming for. So you see, it keeps going back into whatever addiction you now have. If you go back and you try to understand why you're actually gearing towards that addiction, you'll realize that it's to cover up for an emotion that you didn't deal with when you got divorced. So if you, again, and I keep repeating this, if you don't deal with the emotions at the beginning, you're going to spiral down the wrong path from that point forward. And there is no one who can actually get out of a divorce and feel completely 100% fine and healed. Even those that leave a domestic abuse situation, even though they're much happier not being with the other parent anymore and safer, they still have a lot to deal with. There's years of stuff that they have to deal with. even if there was no abuse? What if it was just two people who just don't get along anymore? We don't have that kind of relationship. We've evolved and it was amicable and all that. There's still a grief and loss process from the fact that your family's not what your family used to be.
There's a disentanglement process, I guess you're suggesting, that you have to, as you tangled up with this person for 10 years, 15 years,
Exactly.
you have to untangle from them. And
Exactly.
that can be a process and a half as their grip on you and your grip on them slowly, you slowly separate. And
Exactly. And you also have to understand the new relationship that you have. You used to be husband and wife. So decisions were made together. He would help you, she would help you. She would do things for you, he would do things for you. Now, as a divorcing or divorced couple, there is none of that anymore. And there's a big issue that women are still relying on the men to help them, to change the light bulbs, to tell them what to do with a car, to whatever it is. That relationship has to change. And the more you're holding on to the other parent, the harder it is for that other parent to actually unattach themselves from you. And the minute that you're ready, let's say the woman is ready to go off on her own, at that point, the now ex-husband is going to say, shit, now I feel so lonely. So I was living with her, and then we're talking all the time. She's asked me for advice, and I'm going over to her house to help her out for this, and that. And now, look at that. She's off on her own, and here I am all alone. So you're going through so many different transitions instead of it just being one transition. And transitioning is very hard.
And it's interesting, too, the way you were just talking about it. A guy in a divorce or separation, so we're separating first. The woman is really working through her stuff.
Yeah.
On a Monday.
Yeah.
And on a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is still stuck in Monday.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm putting this across properly, but you guys really do, you women really do work at things. You work things to work it out. You really are moving toward the divorce.
Yes.
As we're now in the separation stage. The guy is like, it's just another day. And he's not doing anything.
He's not dealing with it.
He's not dealing with it at all.
No, he's not dealing with reality. That's because he's not ready.
It is stunning how weeks will go by, and all of a sudden she'll say something to him, and just like in the marriage, he'll say, I didn't know you were moving in that direction or thinking that. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, what do you think the past 14 days that have gone by, what do you think I've been doing? And the guy will, well, I don't know. And we just don't, you're very different. Your species is very different.
We are.
You know that Mars...
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yeah, that equation, it really does have
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that completely. I think that, and it goes back to the same thing we always talk about. The women have the support system. They talk their feelings out. They get it out of their system and they feel better. If the men don't talk about it at all and keep it all inclusive or inside of them, they're not going to be able to heal. They're going to ignore it, and they're going to be fantastic at ignoring the situations and shoving everything under the rug. Yep. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to move on, and that's what ends up leading to that loneliness. And there's also the other factor that, you're used to having someone around, or you're used to having your kids around all the time, and now suddenly, let's say you have a 50-50 custody split. And now you have a whole week to think about, what on earth am I going to do with myself on Monday through Sunday? I don't have any hobbies. I'm used to taking care of my kids. I'm used to the noise in the house. I'm used to taking care of others, and now I don't feel like cooking. And so therefore I'm not eating, or I'm having cereal for supper. And I feel like going out, but I have no one to really go out with. Or I feel like going out, but I don't really have the money for it right now. And so that leads to loneliness also. So when we were married, we may have been so busy that we didn't even adopt any hobbies. And all of a sudden we're single, we're going, now what? It's kind of like when you retire and you say to yourself, okay, great, now I'm retired. Okay, now what am I doing from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? It's like, what am I going to do myself for 12 hours now? It's a long day. Yeah. And so the most important thing in order not to get into this, bad situation and end up being lonely and leading to addiction is try to find yourself a hobby. Try to find something that you like, whether you're journaling and, you have all these thoughts in your head and you want to just get your thoughts out of your head and onto a piece of paper. And that's kind of how kind of how I wrote the book, right? So it was my journal, it was my therapy. I was just writing out for whatever it was, good, bad, ugly. It just got all out there, and it helped me just, empty out my head.
Yep.
Another hobby is join a gym. Another hobby is start cooking or baking, or for men, it's go to the gym, join a sport, join a league, something, at least for a couple of those days a week, so that you're not feeling that depression of, great, now I just finished work, it's 5:00, I've got nothing to do tonight, and I don't want to be alone.
One thing I learned in my divorce, that I came to realize very quickly, there was 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
A weird thing to hear, maybe. But I never knew, because if it is filled in those hours by her, by the kids, by the stuff around the house, and all of a sudden it's filled in by nothing, it's just you and your own mind.
Oh.
Holy Jesus, the hours. There's 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on a second. I sleep 8 of them.
Yeah.
8 from 24 is, okay. It's stunning. That's the thing that I found most difficult to deal with.
Yeah. And so this research says that being connected to others socially is widely considered a fundamental human need, crucial to both well-being and survival. And I agree with that. I think it really is all about survival, especially when you're divorcing. You're overwhelmed with emotions and feelings, and confusion and loss and bitterness and a whole load of other things, depending on how you divorce. And especially men, that you keep saying that men don't necessarily reach out to other men. They may reach out to other women, though. I've had quite a few male friends who do reach out to me, and I feel that it gives them a different perspective, something that they never really thought of. They're just kind of looking at me, staring at me, going, yeah, never really thought that was even possible, but I guess that makes a lot of sense, right? Mm-hmm. Because women do have a different perspective. So it says, feeling lonely is thought to make people feel worse mentally and physically. And those who are lonely tend to suffer worse symptoms when they're unwell than those who aren't, obviously. There's a lot of social isolation and loneliness, which is significantly increasing the risk for premature mortality. And the magnitude of the risk exceeds that of many leading health conditions. So they're talking that in many nations around the world, there's now something that they're calling a loneliness epidemic. Like, that's how bad it's becoming. I guess I can imagine the divorce rate in Quebec alone is 60%. Rest of Canada, let's say, average is 50%. Half the population out there has, let's say, a couple of days off at least a month alone when they're not used to it. And the last time they had that was 10, 15, 20 years ago when things were so different.
It's ironic, isn't it? You're saying that we aren't alone. Us lonely people, well, not us lonely people, but lonely people aren't alone. There are many of you out there.
Yes.
So maybe there should be a Mr. Lonely Club.
Yeah.
Or
but there are. You can find, you can join all sorts of support groups. So it's not really support groups, but groups that, that go out often, and they have activities or meetups or things like that. And go to activities, try different things. Like, because your friends might not be single, or your friends might have your single divorced friends.
Sure.
Might have their kids on the night that you don't, and vice versa. It may not work out. So you really do have to go out there and meet a whole bunch of new people just to keep your options open and say, hey, if these guys are going to a movie, I'm going to join them, go to a movie, because it's better than staying home. Okay. Start planning your week in advance. Talk to people in advance. Don't wait until the moment where you're ready to kill yourself, not literally, but you've gotten to the point where you're dying to get out of the house and you have no one to talk to. Yeah. Try to plan it out so you have things to keep yourself busy with. It's not easy, and one of the most important things is to realize that you're not alone, and you're not the only one, and you're not crazy for feeling lonely, and you're not crazy for feeling this way, but you need to go and talk to someone if it's getting out of hand.
And when you do go to these groups, are you, not that you know that what men's groups are all about, but would you be expected to air your dirty laundry?
No.
No?
Sometimes it's just to go out and have fun.
Okay.
I don't know that many guys who actually join other groups to talk. They might talk privately to women, but I'm not sure about men to men.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are out there. I just don't know that many of them. But the man will talk to a woman when he doesn't feel like she could be a threat to him.
Right.
Or there's no sexual attraction.
And
right.
Conversely, the woman will talk to the guy if if she's assured that you're not after me, are you?
I'm not so sure about that because women just like to be heard, right? But women will tend to
Well, I'm
go
suggesting
to,
when a guy goes to a woman friend
yeah,
and starts talking about stuff
yeah.
like that, she wants to be assured that he's not really coming onto her. That's what I think she needs to know, that, okay, I'll listen to you.
Depends what stage she's at. I mean, that's really
Yeah.
generalization. I'm not sure. I
Okay.
think it depends where she's at. I
All
mean,
right.
if she just came out of an abusive relationship, no, she just wants to air out her feelings.
Yeah.
And she's definitely not looking for any, sexual encounter. But if she's okay with it, then she might be thinking, oh, if I open up to him and he feels bad for me, maybe he'll stick around for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's very hard to say. It's very different.
I like the term friends with benefits. I like that.
Well, I think that every man likes it. And on that note, thank you for joining the conversation. You can join us on Facebook and LinkedIn at Ravit Rose, RAVITROSE. And until the next show, have yourself a day that matters. Thank you.